3, 2M.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Chacha Lazaro from the Rappler office, where we are live on your telephones or whatever devices you're using. And I'm very happy to introduce to you my co-convener here, Nene Guevara, who is the main convener of the Movement for Good Governance. And this afternoon, before we go to the debates at Cagayan de Oro City, we'd like to tell you that the debate this afternoon will be the first of 3 presidential debates that is being sponsored by the Commission on Elections, the 4th one being a debate of the vice presidential candidates. This is the first since 1992, and hopefully it starts some kind of a trend where people can just look at the candidates more than just their faces and their slogans and go into their platforms and to the way they think. Hopefully get into the center of their brain and try to understand why they want to become president of this country. Nene, in introducing you, I mentioned that the Movement for Good Governance has put up some kind of a scorecard, right? What is the scorecard?
Well, the scorecard tries to measure the candidates relative to 3 characteristics. Is the candidate effective? Is he going to be a good leader for the country? Also, has he demonstrated in his past life examples of leadership? The second one is he empowering? Is he going to give people hope, inspiration, and opportunities to participate in planning so that they can become and grow into their fullest potential? And very important, we have to have an ethical official, which really means that he should have integrity, his past life should have been led with purity, and he should not be corrupt.
Okay, how do you measure these 3 points that you're trying to score? I mean, it's difficult. These are intangibles. In a manner of speaking, when you talk about ethical, how do you count? How do you measure ethics?
Well, the scorecard is not based on perception. It is really based on information and data. So for example, that have been filed against or allegating graft and corruption being brought efficient. It's not again based on perception. It's again based on his past work. How has he demonstrated, for example, that he has introduced in the past, which really proves that he's going to be he has been an effective leader.
Okay.
For example, empowering. How does he help the poor? Does he give dole-outs? Is he an EPAL candidate? Or does he really give them opportunities to be part of the best candidate? Accompanied by a
These 3 questions, how will you measure them against these 3 items when they speak?
Because presumably they will talk about their platform. So their platform will reveal whether they're specific what they are going to do, or is it just an idea that they have, but they really do not have a roadmap. So that reveals their efficiency as a leader. Again, for ethical character, so the response would reveal how they will treat people. Will they treat people with respect?
Yes.
Will they respect human rights? Or will they trample on the rights of others? So their answers will be reflective of whether they're going to be empowering, ethical, or efficient.
Okay, I just heard a comment a few minutes ago. Somebody said, well, you know, this afternoon's debate is just going to be full of sound bites and motherhood statements.
I'm afraid so, because probably they will come up with abstract and motherhood statements, no? So that is not going to be a real indicator that they will be good leaders, because, I mean, they're president. They're supposed to know, they're supposed to translate goals into tasks. They should have a work plan.
So how are we supposed to measure them? Those of us who are watching and looking at candidates and trying to decide which of the 5 is the right person as my next president, how can I, in a debate like this, measure him in terms of the 3 MGG scorecard points?
I guess we will have to measure on the specificity, on the workability of the platforms, because if they say that I will generate, let's say,
Jobs.
7 million jobs in 15 days, how can you do that unless you really say what programs are you going to introduce?
Or if you have a track record.
That's right, if you have a track record. And
doing that.
I guess we will also have to base our scoring on what we know about the candidate.
I see.
So are they lying? Are they just doing a press release? Or do their past record prove that they were able to do something about poverty? Or are they just doing it to be able to please the audience?
Well, I'm sure that this afternoon's debate will be a, to use the word of somebody else, a preening contest. Everybody's going to try and look their best. So we'll have to try to separate the chaff from the grain and try to discern which ones are really substantive and which ones are just decorative in nature.
Because the danger is they will play to the tune of their audience. Like, for
Yes.
example, the income tax. Somebody will say he will abolish the income tax. So, knowing your principles of governance and how government is run, you know that is not possible. So, you will rank him 0 or 1 because he doesn't even know how government operates.
You can't operate without the
Yeah,
taxes.
right.
Yes, yes. Okay, so in making these promises, they will play to an audience who will love it. I mean, I don't think there's one who will say, no, don't abolish taxes because that will save us from having to pay our taxes.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. But is that something that will resonate with the crowd? I mean, will this kind of rational thinking resonate as opposed to something that is immediate relief from having to pay
I think that
taxes,
is
for
going to
example?
be very popular, and people will capitalize on that, what is popular among the people. But a real leader will have to stand up and say, well, I'm sorry, I have to stick with what is a painful decision.
Yes, yes.
So that really proves that he is going to be a good leader.
Uh-huh.
He makes difficult and unpopular decisions.
Yes, that's true. That's true. We just want to remind you that this page is live as it happens. There are already video clips there of the arrival of the different presidentiables who are joining tonight's debate in Cagayan de Oro City. I hope you stick with us. Give us your reactions. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about the 3 items that Nene has been talking about. These 3 items are: is the candidate ethical? Is he empowering? And is he effective? Maybe before the debate commences, you can begin to score your candidates based on this. Under these major characteristics, you have cut it down even further. You have defined it even further. Could you share with us, Ne, what you mean, for example, when you say that a candidate is ethical? What does that mean?
It really means that he has lived his life with integrity, and his life is an evidence that he will handle public finances well, that he will not steal, and that he will not rob people, and that he will ensure that the taxes that we pay will not go to his pocket, but will be able to be used for delivering public services.
Okay. If a candidate says, I will not steal, I will not raid the coffers of the government, is that enough?
He can say that, of course. You know, I've heard people say that, candidates say that. But the thing is, his past life, his present life, speaks so much against what he's saying. So he may say, I am honest, I will be very, very protective of public finance. But look at what he did. So his life shouts to the end of the earth that he's just playing to the crowd.
Okay.
So I guess we should be more discerning than what we're hearing.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Because by his deeds, you
Yeah.
shall know them.
Okay. Also, under ethical, you said complies with laws, protects public resources, and reduce corruption. Are these the indicators that you are looking at? For example, when you put together your fact book on the presidentiables, do you look, for example, at whether they comply with the laws?
Yes, for example, MGG looks at COA reports and finds out whether this candidate has been charged with malversation, whether he has liquidated all his expenses, whether COA found problems with the financial management. So all those are evidences that he did not use public funds well.
Did you do this for all
Right,
candidates?
yes.
All current candidates
Yes,
that are now
we
listed?
looked at, I think we're one of the users of the COA reports. So we looked at whether funds have been, for example, in one candidate, we saw that this candidate during his administration did not
Available?
Yes, the website,
Okay.
mggphilippines.org.
And as voters, we can check it out and see. Did you do a comparative analysis, for example, between one candidate and the other, or is it just a recitation of?
No, we did not do a
Climate.
comparative analysis because that may be very subjective. No?
Yes.
So what we did was we just listed the records, for example, of Mar. With respect to what he did when he was a legislator, when he was, let's say, DTI secretary. So what is he known for? Also, we did that for Miriam. So we have a list of information also from their website, but we check their websites. Kasi nakakatawa yung Cheche, no? They would say they were responsible for 1,000 laws. But in fact, in the Senate, you can just sign your name, no? And you can be one of the co-authors. But are
it's
you
it's not counted.
No,
as
you should really be the principal author, and you must be the one to shepherd it into legislation.
I see.
Daming sinungaling sa kanila sa sa website nila.
Really?
Oo.
So you also fact check what they're saying, their claims.
That's right. Nako,
Did you find a lot of discrepancies?
Ang dami kasi dami nilang sinabi, they introduced this law. Nako naman.
As a convener, does it frustrate you or does it make you feel sad about the state of honesty in disclosing records?
What do you call that? We feel a bit sad because they're liars in many ways. Because they lie about what they have done. Diba? And honesty...
They want to be president.
Kaya nga honesty is the first characteristic of a president. Kasi if a president is corrupt,
but Nene,
the corruption will flow.
Yes. But Nene, just to be the devil's advocate, doesn't honesty have several shades of gray?
I'm sorry. Kasi the way we have lived our lives and our leaders lived our life. You know, I worked with Secretary of it's only white and black. Because if you look at something which is gray, then that's going to compromise you all the way.
But life is not like that, huh?
Life
Life is gray. Or am I wrong?
Life can be gray, but actually when you talk about values and when you talk about decision making, you should only be guided by what is right.
And what is right is not necessarily, could it be relative?
It cannot be relative. There is only one thing that is right. Because if you can always say it's relative, it depends on the situation. You can always excuse yourself. You know, I have to send my children to good school. That is why this justifies my action.
Yes.
Hindi pwede. Kailangan isa lang. Diba?
Okay. All right. When you say ethical, one of the other points you have here, clean, consistent, and transparent public record. What do you mean by that? When you say transparent, are we talking about checking on your bank accounts?
No. He practiced, Cheche, this, I would remember Jesse Robredo, who really practiced all these traits. Transparency in governance, which really meant that he did not hide anything. So all the transactions, all the policies, all the decision makings, all the projects and contracts were really open for scrutiny. So he was not hiding anything. So you would expect that from a true leader, becoming very transparent in his decision making so that anybody can question him and he can actually say, well, there was no selfish motive, everything was on board, there was no corruption, and you cannot do that unless there is transparency. So that is what we mean by transparency.
What about executive privilege? Or as a administrator, there are certain things that you do not have to disclose. What about that? Instances like that?
I guess if it involves security of the country or security of your community, then you should be entitled to an executive privilege. But for all other financial transactions, I think decision making should be transparent. Because once you are opaque, you're hiding something.
Okay, you found many instances like this in your fact checking?
In fact, even the current administration would say there's a transparency board. But when you look at their transparency board, it does not contain their budgets, it does not contain the contracts that they entered into. Even if you go to the infrastructure, no, actually every infrastructure project should have a big announcement. Who is the contractor? When is it supposed to be? When are they beginning it? When is it supposed to end? That's why, because of the lack of information, citizens cannot question, oh, why is our road still like this, diba?
Yeah. Hence the lack of trust.
Oo.
So the trust goes
hindi
down.
Kasi we have no transparency in many ways. We mouth transparency in policy, but actually we don't practice it extensively.
Is that a Filipino trait or is that human nature? What is it?
I think it's really the fear of losing control. So you don't practice transparency because you will lose control, and you would like to keep the decision making to yourself, so that, well, you feel that you know what is best, and therefore decision making should be yours to make alone.
Okay. Nene was talking about fact checking. On this page on Rappler, we do have fact checking. And in this afternoon's debate, when the presidentiables make certain claims, there will be fact checking for accuracy of what they're saying. Okay, with that, we'll take a break and we'll continue with our MGG goals.
Nakakapagod.
Okay, the candidates have just given their opening statements, all five of them, and Chai, to get your take on how you're going to rate the next round in the debates. Chai?
Yes, actually for round one, the editors will also be looking at each of the candidates and we will be deciding who's the winner and who's the loser. We came up with a set of criteria and these include, for the winner, one would be truthfulness. We're looking at consistency, comparing what they've said in the past to what they're saying during the debate, and then the overall impact, how the candidate comes across to the audience. We'll also gauge and assess the candidate's vision, whether he's able to articulate very clearly what he wants, where he wants to bring the country, and what his specific plans are as far as the presidency is concerned. And then we'll also look at his knowledge, whether he knows what he's talking about or whether he's just bluffing and whether there's he did some research, and because the presidency after all requires stock knowledge. You cannot make crucial decisions if you don't know what's going on. And then we also decide who the loser will be. We're looking at the inability to articulate what the vision and what the plans are as far as his presidency is concerned. We'll also look at inconsistency, lying, if ever we catch any of them doing that, and whether the candidate is tentative, unsure, bluffing. These things we will be able to gauge, and then finally the lack of vision and leadership. So all of those criteria we look at for each of the presidential candidates. Check.
Okay, thank you, Chai. Maybe now we can go to the opening statements of the candidates. Of the five candidates, three of them started out by talking about poverty, referring to poverty. Binay told us about how he started as a very poor boy. Miriam talked about poverty and that this was something that we were the poorest in the region of the food products come from. Duterte referred to criminality and already made a promise that in 3 to 6 months he would eradicate criminality and the drug problem. Rojas was different. He had he used the metaphor of a driver and a vehicle, and the vehicle being the country, and our ability to choose the right driver for this vehicle. What did you think of it, Net?
I thought that Mar really gave a very good beginning, that he's saying that to be able to get a driver, you must get the best. So much more, if you're looking for the president, you must get the best. I think Binay was always capitalizing on him being poor, but he's no longer poor. He's a billionaire, right? And I think Grace was just really trying to please the crowd by saying how Mindanao is important. Mindanao is important. Even in this administration, the administration has poured a lot of resources to Mindanao.
Okay, so in general terms, let us know, did the opening statements make you happy? Did they irritate you? You can tell us exactly who you thought, what do you call this? Else wants to
So we're
say anything, Glenn?
I'd like to say he needs to win.
Okay. Wouldn't want to be in a bus with a reckless.
To be offensive driver. Qualified. So he's actually saying Grace is not qualified and also Mar is not qualified. I think that's really an overgeneralization.
Okay, I think we should go back to the debate and see what their opening salvos will be in terms of answering the questions and directing their comments to more specific issues. Okay, we're back. Round one is now finished. After the opening statements, there was a sequence of one candidate being posed a question, and the second candidate given the ability to ask that candidate the question again. What did you round?
Actually contradicted himself. He always said that he is poor, and yet he's saying that he actually inherited so much property from his parents. So how can that be? How can you be poor and how can you inherit so much? And of course, that can be easily verified. Did he pay estate taxes for all the inheritance that he got from his parents? Diba?
Okay, and your data shows what?
Even in his interview over DZMM, he was saying that he did not inherit so much family. So came from. I was also a high-powered government official, but I'm not rich. Diba? Because you have very little salary in government.
So based on what the empowering
I played empowering because he was saying that he was what do you call this? He was an effective leader. He gave people services when he was mayor.
Yes.
But actually, his track record when he was Metro Manila chair was not really very good, diba? So I don't think he was very empowered. I think that because he was saying in locality, but of course, because he gets the
when they needed it most.
It's based on fact. In fact, he was saying that Channel 7 can verify that he was there, and we also talked to the administrator of Leyte, and so everything that he says is verified.
Okay. Also, Senator Poe and Secretary Rojas had an exchange. What did you think of that exchange?
Well, I thought that Senator Rojas was saying that to be president, you have to really have a solid experience. Kasi Miriam and what Senator Poe said is correct, that it is more difficult to be a senator than a president. A president gets criticisms and has to fight fire from all fronts, unlike the Senate, diba? So, it's not just becoming a good senator. You must really have demonstrated good executive leadership.
Okay. The exchange of Senator Miriam and Mayor Duterte, what did you think of that?
I did not see a courageous Duterte because I think he failed to question Senator Miriam on what we always wanted to ask. What is the true record of your public health? Instead of saying that, he was actually trying to please her, diba? I could not understand that.
Okay.
I would also like to say, Cheche, that people forget that Senator Mar was a very efficient Secretary of Attachment RT. But he proved that he was a very efficient secretary when he was at DTI. The proof is the BPO industry. He nurtured that from birth.
Okay. All right. So on a score, when we score, whether it was very good or from 1 to 5, very good or very poor, how would you rate the candidates at this point after the first gap?
I would rate Mar the highest, and I guess because even
Based on the scorecard, huh?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So there's really no basis for ethical character. We're just talking about leadership, no?
Yes.
So I would rate Mara 5. I would rate parang I could not rank the others. I would say there's still, to me, there's always number 2.
Okay. And all the rest number 2.
Number 2, yes.
All right. Maybe we can go to Chai and find out the score for the first scored it by giving us your Mike and Jessica, but also to the exchanges between the candidates when they were given an opportunity to question each other. Any other points that you want to bring up for his forthrightness? Then, of course, the how do you net effect of what he plans to do? Will it conform to the standards of ethics that we believe in or that we adhere to?
Because
So,
I
at
think
face value,
Senator Grace made a good retort there, di ba? That
Yes.
we should be respectful.
yes,
And
yes,
regardless. Oo.
regardless of orientation,
Be respectful.
her health, she became defensive instead of becoming proactive and saying that she is, in fact, no longer under the threat of terminal cancer. But she became defensive by saying that there is no law that says that you have to be healthy. Okay, all right. So let's go back to the debate and see what happens next. Okay, while the debate is on break, let's now find out how did the candidates do in round one. And I now refer you to Chai. Can you let us know what's happening? Who are the winners and who are the losers of round one?
Actually, for round one, we gave it to Mar Rojas of the Liberal Party. We thought that it was a different Mar that we saw. He was usually very safe and very calculated in whatever he says. But here in this round, including the opening remarks, no, we factored that in as well. He was on the offensive. He went on the offensive, and he hit post competence, Binay's alleged corruption, and also had insinuated on the temper of Duterte, which could affect the decisions of a leader. As we said earlier, we looked at truthfulness. Actually, on the factor of truthfulness, we saw that Duterte was very consistent. He was asked a tough question about being a model for the youth and the killings, and then he's and even the womanizing, and he admitted all that, and this was all these statements were really consistent with what he had said in the past. So that was in so far as truthfulness is concerned, very well. Who knows, prepares, does the research, and all the the wealth and the so, and he wasn't able to clearly articulate and explain himself. That was our feeling. So I guess, do you agree, ladies? Yes. Yeah, sure.
Thanks. I think there are other polls that we have right now, right? So on Twitter, we actually see that Rudy Duterte is number one on Twitter in terms of number of mentions, share of voice, and then the second is Binay after the close of round one. And then on the poll on the Rappler site itself, we're getting Rudy Duterte also as number one on that. So interesting.
In terms of mentions or in terms of
votes.
Votes
The
of
ones
confidence.
on Rappler itself are actual people had to vote. We verified that they were real people, and then we also allowed only one vote per person. So on that one, Rudy Duterte, and this has been relatively consistent in terms of the site. But Twitter is interesting, and let's continue watching Twitter, because on that one, this is, whether positive or negative, that's share of voice. Who are they going to actually, who do they identify with? Which elements, which things they say have resonance?
Yeah.
People will probably be watching very closely how the candidates will be performing.
Okay.
Talk about the surveys that we had so far from January.
No. Later. And because these are the latest surveys that we have on record, for our chances and bring down the ratings from the last survey.
Yes. This early in the game, huh?
Yeah.
This early in the game, they're becoming tentative. Anything that facts, inaccuracies that have been cited by any of the candidates thus far?
So far, nothing glaring.
That Duterte at the top of that heap
Really, the person, as what Maria
of transparency.
and
Okay, round two has just finished on the debate in Cagayan de Oro City, and there are several polls going on our page, which is live. One of them is, of course, your mood meter. How do you feel about the debate thus far? We have some Twitter responses to what's happening in the debate, and round two, which was just declared closed, had a series of Q&A between candidates and coming from the hosts of the show. Based on our MGG goals, which let me reiterate, is it ethical, is it effective, and is it empowering? The three main characteristics that we should be looking for in a leader who score round two in terms of how each of the candidates did.
Kasi if you know, Rudy Duterte is really very dramatic, no? But apparently his approach is very autocratic, and I guess it's very unrealistic. He was just saying, I will say stop it, and the cartel will stop in 3 days. You don't really say stop it and things will stop, diba? Involved, including those in cost.
Okay.
Because he's just like Clint Eastwood, diba? Make my somebody that really gives you situation. Because governance is going to be very problematic, and he has to start from that
Of the scorecard is very
empower. You're part of the solution, that he will give you opportunities to take part in solving the problem, in understanding the problem, and drawing up remedies to solve the problem. To him, it is not for him it's not empowering, because every authority it will reside on.
and a very effective question that are now being cited.
It very well. 15 pesos are also.
Did she matter? Or we're going to bring crowd thinks about round two.
For a recap, on the first round, we had Duterte coming in at first place, and our Raptor editor was called the first round of the debate in favor. At plans for a fisherman said that the Duterte's Dr. Santiago, who ranked second, she slipped to third place in the second round of the polls. So in the first two rounds, we see that it's still Duterte who's leading both of them, and we're still waiting for the results of the third presidential poll to see what will happen.
Thank you, Katrina. And now let's move on to Glenda, who has the results of the winner,
To solve poverty, he would side Makati.
Okay, that's one is the vote for Senator Grace Poe, and that the Twitter accounts are now saying that the positive reaction really belongs to Duterte, correct?
Yes.
On both rounds?
Yes.
On both rounds. It's interesting. And then I guess the third question is, do all of these mentions convert into votes, or is this just a reaction for the moment? All right. Ne, what did you think of so far? This round?
Region 11 got 46 wrongly.
He said 9. Based on the Twitter responses,
Stories about Makati that his poor areas in Makati.
Okay, we're back. Round three has just completed on the debate, and following that will be the closing statements. But before we do that, I'd like to ask Patricia, you were commenting earlier about some inconsistencies in the statements during round three.
Well, if we're talking round three in terms of the BBL, what I think, but I Grace Po wanted a sure where they stand as possible and wasn't able to hit the point where they're supposed to say they're for. As a viewer and as a
Out earlier was the question about dynasties.
Yes.
When they were talking about dynasties, Miriam and Binay were both given that question,
Yes.
right? Your reaction?
Um, uh, Senator Defensor Santiago has always been against dynasties, at least in terms of her legislative record. So it,
Through
Low, because for everybody, not give a BB local government accurate. Election.
I think we should put a little context here. Nene used to be the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Finance, so she knows whereof she speaks.
That's right. So it cannot be said that they only get 30% because the law says they should get, the local government says they should get 40% of what
Okay.
BIR collects.
Is it possible that they're not getting it?
Probably there are deductions in the sense
okay for her. Will
Point.
That's his point. And
Yeah.
Senator Miriam, who was going on quite well, was stuck with, but your son also ran. So
Okay.
that's where the lack of definition comes in. Is it okay for her son to run if she wasn't an elected official? Because at that time, she was on an appointed position. So I'm not certain how far that goes.
I see. But she pointed out that he did not run for re-election. So does that make it less of a dynasty issue?
No, I don't see the relevance of is running once less of a sin than running twice if you think running at all is a sin.
Okay, those are very good points to think about. Let's get back to the debate and see what the final words of our candidates are for tonight's debate. Okay, the first ever debate sponsored by the COMELEC in over 20 years has just finished. It started at 5 and it's now 7:21. In those hours, we were able to look at the candidates and see how they thought about three main questions. They had their opening statements. They had questions about poverty and development. They had questions about poverty and the economy, and then they had the third portion about the Mindanao question. And we have reporters who've been following the campaign trail of all of the candidates, and we have here with us Camille to tell us about what you thought Grace Poe did for the debate.
Well, all the topics that were discussed today, they were part of the speeches of Senator Grace Poe in her sortie. So even before the debate started, I was thinking maybe she's a bit prepared for this because that's what she's been saying for the past months, past weeks, even before the filing of the candidacy. And right now, like we went to Pangasinan and to Nueva Ecija, these areas are what you call this agriculture-based, their
Yes.
industries, yeah. So what she said has so far been consistent of what she's been saying all along. But I think the problem here is she cannot veer away from the motherhood statements that she's been used to doing.
Okay. She had some specifics, like she gave statistics in the beginning. Do you remember that? And she was saying that only 30%, less than 30% goes to Mindanao. Did you find any inaccuracies in some of the statements that she made?
So far, none, because that's what she's been saying in the past, that once she becomes president, if she wins as president, she will allot 30% of the national budget to Mindanao because they're left behind by Luzon and Visayas.
Okay. What were her strong points tonight?
I think she did a good job researching, and because all her statements and the statistics are proven to be consistent with her past claims and even on statistical data. So I think that pushes her that pushes her claims and statements.
Was she based on the mood meter, and I guess you were also monitoring the Twitter comments? Did she project well? Was she criticized? Was she praised? What was the reaction to her?
The comments on social media were mostly about her inexperience in government service, and it has been the same thing in the past. Like when I'm tweeting about my coverage of her or following her in different sorties, that's what people say about her.
Okay.
The inexperience and her renunciation of Philippine citizenship. Those are the two
Are those
criticisms.
issues sticking?
Now,
Yes.
here,
I mean, is it resonating with people, with voters? Is this a main concern for them?
I think yes, for the renunciation, but not so much about inexperience, because she's been saying that it's not a disadvantage for her because there are those politicians that have been in government service for so long, but you know, they're.
If you were to grade her for tonight on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you say her grade is?
I think 4.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you very much. Now, Pia is for Duterte, right? Pia, why don't you join us here and let us know how your candidate fared? Well, I won't say candidate, but how the candidate you are following fared.
Well, he was very consistent. Everything he said, we have him on record saying those things. He doesn't overpromise, and he really made a point on the campaign trail saying that he doesn't want to say things he won't deliver. So he was very much on message. It's good that he actually cited statistics, which he doesn't normally do during on the campaign trail. Usually, he's all about the sound bites. So he took a page from Alan Cayetano's book by citing figures and numbers.
I like the way you
funds.
say that. He took a page from Alan Cayetano's
Yeah.
book. What do you mean?
Because Cayetano usually, during the campaign, he's the one who gives the figures. He's the one who sort of gives the analysis, the organization of thought. And Duterte is the one that usually brings the charisma, the personality. So this time, he got something from Cayetano.
Based on Caterina's report, she was saying that Duterte had the most number of comments coming in on Twitter and all of the other comments that were coming in. Are you surprised by this, or
No. Because Duterte supporters are very active on social media. I actually did a story showing how OFW supporters are moderating 24/7 chat rooms on Facebook. They have moderators for every country. Like they have chapters, very organized. So they're very mobilized on social media. And since Rappler is a social media-based news website,
Yes.
they're very much active on Rappler. So
Okay, so is this unusual or is this these are unique tweets from new people or the same people?
I think a lot of the old ones are there. They're consistently there. He has a core group of supporters. But I think probably for this debate, they probably mobilize more people because this national attention is on the debate. So I wouldn't be surprised if they bolstered their numbers for today, especially.
Okay, what were the high points for you in Duterte's performance tonight?
I think Duterte showed his ability to talk about Mindanao issues. He has the credibility because he was a Davao City mayor for over 2 decades. So in terms of a show of force, he seemed to understand the issues more, and I think he came across that way also. He also it has the most change-oriented policy when it comes to Mindanao because the other candidates, they were saying devolution, they were saying, more programs, but this is already happening. We have devolution already in the LGUs, but the Duterte solution is more radical, it's federalism. So
Yes.
given that Mindanao has not progressed as much or that much in recent years, maybe people are looking for something different, and maybe his pitch for federalism will have an impact on those kinds of people who aren't satisfied with the status quo.
Anything on the low side, on the minus side?
I think he still failed to articulate some of his policies, like federalism. He didn't explain how he would go about the shift. Also, his crackdown on peace and on crime and drugs. He only said he will do it.
Yes.
It's like
But
political will.
he gave a time frame. Yeah,
Mhm.
3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Is that good, or is that something that he's consistently been saying
Yeah,
without
it's consistent.
without any specific plan?
The specific plan usually is explained by Cayetano, although he does explain things like doubling the salaries of policemen, of military, putting up special trial courts for heinous crimes. So in the campaign trail, he does elaborate, but for this time around, it seemed he didn't, and it would have been better if he articulated more.
Okay. Although I think it was him that threatened to walk out of a debate if he was not given enough time, right?
Yeah, but a lot of what Duterte says is said in a joking manner, so I don't think he really meant it. The way he
Okay.
doesn't really mean he'll kill like labor
was-
unions.
It was a
So,
tongue-in-cheek comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for following through, Pia. Maybe we can get Patty. Patty, are you here? Oh, there you are, Patty. Hi. So you were doing something. You've been following Senator Santiago, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What do you think of tonight's debate?
Tonight's debate, well, she was pretty consistent about some of her stances, and she did not fail to entertain. I mean, some of her lines were entertaining, but
Yes.
it can't be denied that somehow there's something wrong about Senator Santiago. Like she's having a hard time understanding the question at some point, not like before that when she's very snappy about her statements.
Was that your main observation tonight, that she wasn't really with it? Is that what you're saying, or am I putting words into your mouth?
No. Well, that's my main observation, that she, at some point, she has to clarify a lot of questions. She has to have it told to her again.
Okay. What about her? I thought that one of her very striking moments was when she said, "These are all good promises, but where are you going to get the money?" That was a very pointed
Yes.
comment. Has she always been consistent about this?
Well, she
questioning
has-
the programs of others?
Yes, because number one, she wanted to continue the conditional cash transfer program.
Yes.
But she's questioning how it is going to be implemented, that there are a lot of budgets allotted for it, that she wants to rationalize it. Actually, most of the platform of Senator Santiago is just continuing the projects of the government, but more of rationalizing them, making it more efficient. So I think it's just consistent that she's asking for where we're going to get the budget for these programs.
Okay. If you were to rate her on a scale of 1 to 5, what grade would you give her?
Well, I could give Senator Santiago maybe a 3.5.
Not very high.
Yes.
Why?
Because, well, I interviewed her media relations officer a day before the event, and they told us that Senator Santiago will come in her best fighting form. And before, I previously interviewed a political analyst, and he also said that the presidential debate will be the perfect way for Senator Santiago's campaign to kick off. So maybe a lot of us were expecting that Senator Santiago will be as fierce as she was before. But now it seems that maybe there's really something about her health, maybe. She's not as
So she didn't come up to speed.
Yes.
In other words. Thank you very much. Thank you for that evaluation on that. Patricia, tell us about Mar and what you thought of his performance tonight.
Here.
Oh, there you are.
Hello.
Okay. Hi there. What did you think of Mar's performance tonight?
Well, I'm not a beat reporter, so I haven't been following more on the field because
Yes.
I've been doing profiles of all the other candidates as well. What I've been looking at are their personal narratives.
Okay.
So, what I saw from the debate actually, it wasn't a debate about issues.
Okay.
There were very rare clashes between differences in ideology. What it was about was who's incompetent and who's not. Who's more incompetent than me, and I'm more capable than you because you screwed this part up. So it was more or less like that. But in the case of Mar, particularly looking at how he's been performing, he seemed more comfortable in his own skin. He was
Tonight.
He was very authoritative. He didn't get lost in the numbers, which he usually does. And the trouble with Mar's campaign before was that he came with a mixed narrative.
Yeah.
Is he Mar of the people? Is he going to run around carrying sacks of onions? Or is he going to be the bureaucrat, the technocrat, the guy who knows what he's doing? Tonight, that was the guy we saw. The one who knew the numbers. He had some pretty sharp answers. He told Grace Poe that the presidency is not on the job training. He told Binay that his idealized Makati is actually a drug den. He had very strong statements, very categorical statements, but he did flounder quite a lot when he was asked about his performance as DILG secretary, particularly after Typhoon Haiyan, because every time he was questioned about that, we would say, I was there in the beginning, I was there in the middle, I was there in the end, and all Binay had to say, that's why people hate you. And he said that categorically, people hate you because you might have been there, but you were trouble and you didn't do much for the people. So I don't know which narrative will win there, but I think for this debate, he performed much better than people would have expected. He actually went dangerously close to being dramatic, but not quite.
Okay.
He presented an image, he said, but he was consistent with this new image. I know what I'm doing. I am not poor. I have no dramatic story. I'm not doing this for my son. I'm doing this because I want my son to have the same future as all of you, or all of you to have the same future as my son. So I think that might have been.
Were you surprised?
Yes.
Were you surprised? Did you see a new Mar tonight?
I saw Mar at his best, I think, tonight. It's not a new Mar. It occasionally happens, but for this one, he has great debating chops.
Do you consider this a turning point in his?
I'm not in a position to say that. I don't know how debates actually affect numbers in the Philippines. I
Okay.
think this is a good test. We've rarely actually had these sorts of debates, so it would be interesting to see what will happen.
It's a good litmus test. Yeah. Thank you. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate him?
I wouldn't know. I have narrative standards, not
Yes,
performance
yes.
standards. I think they wouldn't be accurate.
Okay, thanks, Patricia.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. And now let's hear about Binay, the vice president, the current vice president. Gigi, can you join us? Now, Binay was unusually quiet tonight, don't you think?
He's always like that.
He's always quiet, not coming out with blazing swords. So let's hear from Gigi, who can give us some kind of look back into how the vice president performed tonight. Hi, G.
Hi.
What do you think of Binay?
He could have done better. I mean,
Okay.
we were all impressed by Mar Rojas spitting out all these statistics that we have to verify, of course. But among the 4 other presidential candidates, it could have been Binay who could have come countering those statistics, or at least coming up with proposals and programs backed by data and statistics, because he is campaigning on this image that he is the most experienced, and that he has and he's the one who is most prominently criticizing the current administration for being ineffective and inefficient. So he could have come with all these programs backed by specific
You're saying
proposals.
he did not.
He did not. They were general statements. Most of them we've heard in many rallies and forums before.
Do you think that this is intentional, or is it a calibrated response? What do you think?
What I know is all of them prepared for the debates. So and they should have expected that there would be limited time for each one of them to answer. And if they really had concrete programs up their sleeves, they could have just easily explained or said all of this within the time limits. So if you have 1 minute and you cannot even cite something specific, then you probably didn't really have something specific to say.
Do you think that this worked against him, tonight's debate?
Yes, because I was expecting that he would shine or stand out. If you're the vice president, you're just a step away from the presidency, and you should be the one who should have emerged most impressive with the most concrete ideas on how to run the government. But then you were just like most of the candidates, giving motherhood statements.
That's interesting, because he is always very aggressive in his statements.
Yes, actually, I was surprised that he tried to hold back.
Yes.
In that instance where he was debating Miriam about dynasties.
Yes.
He was a bit gentle when he pointed out that Miriam had a child who was an elective official when they were talking about dynasties. He could have come back at Miriam more strongly.
Yes.
And I would like to say that during the proclamation rallies, Binay had the best speech among the five, because he was the only one who enumerated 4 specific steps that programs that he was going to do in his first 100 days in office. He could have carried that on in all the succeeding forums and debates.
Yeah. So it's pretty unusual for a seasoned politician,
yes, actually,
like Binay, to have held back.
Yeah.
And is there an explanation for it?
I think he was put on the defensive because the question is about dynasty, and among the candidates, he's the one who has the most number of relatives in office right now.
The most to have to defend, yes.
Yeah. But actually, he could have defended himself to say that, where his usual defense is as long as qualified.
Yes.
I think it resonates with a lot of people, especially in the provinces. Hey, they really vote for multiple members of every family. But he could also have pointed out that as long as there is no law prohibiting it, it would be met by criticisms from the media. But we're just the media, But if people who are not media, who are not really closely following them, it could have been enough a defense if only he pushed for it.
Yes. On a scale of 1 to 5, G, how would you have rated the candidate?
3.
3. Just passing.
Yeah, I expected him to do at least 4.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you, G. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've done all 5, I believe. Grace, Duterte, Miriam, Mar, and Binay. Now, for the MGG, the Good Governance Scorecard, what is how have you rated them?
We scored all the candidates based on efficiency, empowering characteristics, and ethical character.
Yes.
So the score of Rojas is 13.
13?
13.
30.
13. 1-3.
1-3. Okay.
Yes. Po, 10.
Yes.
Santiago, 8. Duterte, 6. And Binay, 4.
Binay is at the bottom of your
Yes.
list. Can you explain these votes?
I think Binay suffered, no, because the first question was about his wealth. So I
Yes.
think that deprived him of the confidence already to start with, with all his punches. He was defensive from the very start.
But Binay is a fighter. I mean, Binay is not one to recoil.
Well, I guess it was very difficult for him to explain where his wealth came from. And this is the reason why we scored him quite low in ethical character.
Okay.
You would see that we scored Mar the highest because he came out very strongly, very, very concrete on his ideas. He was very calm. And for example, about his approach to poverty, he was very specific about what programs the farmers would need. So Grace was also very good in giving her answers. I think she came very prepared. Probably all the people around her gave her good statistics, but I think she was trying to please and trying to prove so much. And
But weren't they all trying to please?
no, I think Senator Poe came out with several statistics which actually diluted some of her answers. So
Why is that?
for example, when she was asked about BBL,
Yeah.
she gave several answers, and I got lost where she was going to, no? And I think Senator Santiago was very, very direct to the point in many ways. For example, she was talking about the Constitution. And I think that was where Binay faltered also about the dynasty, no? Because he was talking about the lack of definition, but his blood relations, all first degree, are in government, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
Makati is ruled by his entire family. So again, he scored very low with respect to ethics. Well, Mr. Duterte, as I said, he plays to the crowd, and I think he's going to be very popular because that's what the crowd needs. Action agad. We need
Definitive answers?
Yeah, and people think an autocratic president is very necessary for us to end all this criminality and the drug problem and the cartel. He says 3 days.
Okay, his short deadline.
Oh, I cannot really
Swift deadline.
Because corruption is a systemic problem.
Yeah.
And you cannot just say, I will stop corruption. You have to have systems and processes by which corruption should be stopped. I should know, I worked with the Department of Finance for several years.
Okay.
So, it's Rojas who got the highest score.
Okay, on all three levels, right? Effective, empowering, and
Ethical.
And ethical. Yeah.
Senator Rojas was saying, I seem to be very disrespectful. Senator Rojas was saying for 20 years, there is no major or even minor allegation.
Is that true? I mean, is that factual?
Yes, I'm very familiar with the track record of Senator Rojas, the father. So he's very, very much known for integrity. So I guess Senator Rojas will have to respect the name that his father gave him.
Well, not necessarily, right? But then,
Well-
if his claim is that he has not had any tinge of corruption on his name, if that is true,
There is no record.
There is no record.
Yes, about his abuses or uses of power.
okay. Thank you, Ne. Now, as Katrina was telling us earlier, Mayor Duterte had the highest number of mentions on Twitter. Let's ask Katrina to give us an update. Katrina, come and join us here. Or you could do that. Okay, here, come. Tell us about what the people are saying. These are the votes, right?
Yes. These are the votes on our mood meter and the Rappler site.
Yeah.
What we see is in all 3 rounds, it's always Duterte who topped the polls.
Consistently,
There are actually 2 consistent trends. It's
Yes.
Duterte who tops the polls and Binay who places last. And he also got double-digit figures in all 3 polls that we had.
Yes.
For the 3rd round, where we had 790 votes,
Yeah.
Duterte got 58.61% or 463, And Mar Rojas came in at second place with 133 or 16.84%, which is similar
Very
to his
far.
ranking in the second poll. He was
Okay.
also the second placer in the
placer.
second
Yes,
poll.
yes.
Senator Miriam Santiago came in at third place with only 100 votes, or 12.66%, followed by Senator Grace Poe with 83 votes, and finally Binay with 11 votes. To recap, in all three polls, we had Duterte coming in at first place, and there's a big gap between
Yes.
Duterte and his second placer. For the first round of the poll, we had Santiago coming in at second place, and for the second and third round, we had Rojas coming in at second place. But even though he came in at second place, there's still a big gap. For example, in the third round, Duterte got 463 and Rojas got 133.
Wow.
So it's a kind of a big difference.
Yes.
For Binay, although he's the front runner in many presidential preference surveys, in the Rappler polls he got only double-digit numbers. For example, in the third poll he got 11. In the second round of the poll he got 21, and in the first round of the poll he got 17. So that's the consistent trend in the Rappler polls. It's Duterte at the top and Binay at the bottom.
Okay, were you surprised?
Yes. I was a little
What surprised you?
I was surprised with Binay's numbers. I was kind of expecting Duterte's numbers, seeing as how he's kind of popular in social media. But
Duterte?
with Duterte,
Yes,
yes. But
yes.
with Binay, seeing
Yes.
as he's the front runner in many preference surveys, I was expecting him to rank a little higher. Or
Yes.
at least even if he's at last place, I was expecting him to get more than just double-digit numbers.
What were the comments about Duterte as opposed to Binay from the first place and the last place?
We haven't really comments on that.
Content analyzed it, yeah? Okay.
I think what we've seen so far is that there are a lot of reactions on Duterte's stronger statements in the polls.
Positive reactions.
If we look at the mood meter,
Yes.
then we can say that it got positive reactions. But there's an interesting spike also in angry votes after some of the happy votes. So inferring
it's a
from
mix.
that as
It's a
yes,
mix. So
a
it's
mix.
not really consistently angry or consistently happy.
No, we get happy votes or inspired votes, and after a period of time, a little bit of a spike for angry votes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. This is for Duterte.
Yes, for Duterte.
And for
Every time
Binay?
Duterte says something. Yes.
And for Binay?
For Binay, sometimes we get annoyed. There are also a couple of inspired and happy votes and a bit of don't care.
Don't care?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Katerina. We'd now like to hear from the editors-in-chief to find out what they were doing, winners and loser columns. We'd like to find out how we did, or how the candidates did on round 3. Chai? We're okay? Round
no,
three?
sorry, Mia. Mia is doing round 3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Mia, would you like to share with us round 3? How did the candidates fare? I'm sure you're doing your own analysis at home, trying to find out how your votes either agree with the votes that you have been hearing about or how they are different. And maybe based on that, we can find out if there is some kind of agreement here. Hi, Mia.
Hi.
What did you think? What was who was in the winners column and the losers column in round 3?
The editors chose Grace Poe as the winner in round 3 because she was consistent with her message with regards to EDCA. She was one of the senators who signed the Senate resolution expressing the sense of the Senate that the EDCA should be ratified by the Senate.
Okay. She was also the winner in round 2. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
All right. So, if you were to, do an averaging, it is Grace Poe who came out
Yes,
the winner.
she won 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3
Yes.
rounds. All right. Because of her consistency, you were saying?
Because of her consistency and her clarity of message.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Do you agree with that? Ne?
So I was just thinking about Duterte, no? Her Davao was voted as the safest, one of the safest city.
Yes.
But actually, it's not really based on statistics, but it's based on
Perception.
No, it's based on votes. So you have to vote through the internet. So I guess he's very, very active there. His
Yeah.
supporters are very active in the internet.
Yes, that's what they were saying. He has a very
Yes,
tight core group.
his supporters are the most socially engaged. So every time we post a story, they have the most number of comments, regardless of what he says.
Regardless of what he says.
Regardless of what he says.
So comments
It's
are not,
automatic.
comments are not necessarily positive. They can be negative as well, or is it always
No, it's-
positive?
Positive because those are all from his supporters.
Okay, let's go to the closing round, Mia. Join us as we talk about this. What did you think of the closing statements of all 5 presidentiables? You want to start, Net?
As what one of the reporters said, Grace Poe has been very consistent in saying that she understands the problem of poverty and that's what she's going to address. I just thought that Senator Rojas was a bit, he's trying to prove that he understands the sentiments of the poor, because one of his difficulties is the perception that he's so rich and that he does not care for the poor. So he debunks that by saying that, yeah, I can provide for the future of my family, but the thing is, he wants everybody to have
the same
what his son has. So I thought
Yes.
that was a transformation.
Were you surprised at Mar's use of that kind of language?
I'm surprised at the transformation of Mar, because he appeared very brave. He appeared offensive, but also diplomatic at the same time. And he was also saying that he's not just really hiding behind Tuwid na Daan, but he was saying that he's going to improve very much on Tuwid na Daan. I also like the fact that he has, it's very difficult to be an administration candidate because he has to defend the administration. Unfortunately, many of the things that the administration did is true. For example, they're talking about roads in Mindanao, and I don't think Mayor Duterte was correct there. There are many roads now in Mindanao, and all the modern airports, as what they said, the airport in Cagayan de Oro and the roads to Mindanao, including, I frequent Maguindanao a lot. Before, there was no road going to UP, but now there's a road going to UP. So I think it's just that it's very difficult to defend the administration. I'm not really a great fan of President Aquino, but the fact is, this administration has done a lot for Mindanao.
Okay. Mia, what did you think of the closing statements?
Well, I think that the closing statements were summaries of what they said for the whole debate.
Yes.
So,
who had the most impactful closing statement that could have tipped them over the what is it?
The voters?
The decision point of the voters.
I would say maybe like what you said, it's Mr. Rojas.
Why is that?
Because I also saw it in round 3, yung he came out fighting against, the vice president. He had braver words. He was on the offensive, but at the same time, he pulled back a little so that he won't, be rude. So I think in that sense, I was impressed by what he said.
Aggressive but polite.
Yes, in a way.
Okay.
Aggressive but polite.
Okay. Miriam Defensor Santiago not being, as was reported, not being as aggressive as her usual self. Were you surprised?
Yes, in a way, because I used to cover the Senate, and when she gives statements, it's usually backed up by facts. But in this case, she seemed to be mouthing a lot of, crowd-pleasing statements. Things that you would want to hear from her,
yes,
but would not necessarily convince you to vote for her.
Yes.
She was very Miriam in her last statement, huh?
Yes.
So you have to vote for me
Because of academically qualified. What do you
because
think
of
that?
the awards.
Yeah, she's been saying that ever since. She's been saying that if you, for a government official, you must be a top-notcher. You should have good grades.
Yes.
She's always said that.
Yes. Well, these are qualities that she possesses.
Yes.
These are qualities that can describe her as a person and as an accomplished woman. Mayor Duterte?
You know, Mayor Duterte is Mayor Duterte. So every time he speaks, everybody listens because we're not used to hearing politicians who say what they really think, you know, unfiltered.
Yes, yes.
So in that sense,
Do you find that he is still as raw as he was in the first time we ever saw him?
I think he's been advised to
Tone down.
tone down a little, you know, to appeal to the other voters because, you know, he has core voters who would vote for him
Yes,
regardless of what he says or does.
yes.
But, you know, it may not be enough for him to win the presidency. So he has to modify some of his public statements to win other voters as well.
But on the whole, did this presidential debate bring the question of of what they stand for? Did it bring it forward? Has our campaign moved forward?
I think it was very good for Senator Mar and Senator Grace Poe. It brought out the best in both of them. But for the other three, well, of course we have to rule out Mr. Duterte because Mr. Duterte just says a mouthful when he comes up with his taglines. No?
Yeah. But going back to the movement for good governance, you have this scorecard. You might want to tell us how we can propagate this kind of a scorecard so people have a basis for making a decision on our candidates.
Well, the scorecard really tries to bring out the best choice by making people judge based on facts, based on specific programs, based on platforms, based on what a candidate has done and how he has lived his life. We're trying to influence people not to vote based on what a candidate says or whether he's a crowd pleaser or whether he communicates very well, because he's going to be our president. He's going to lead the country, and this is a globalized world already. We're not just talking about the Philippines, so he's not just going to be competent. So we really have to see whether this president has led competently, right?
Okay. And maybe this first debate is a good start for us to get into the brain of these leaders, because I think what this campaign lacks is the opportunity for voters to look into the brains as opposed to just looking at the outside characteristics.
That's right.
Yeah. Mia, thank you very much for the evaluation from the editors of Rappler. And to Nene, thank you very much for joining us and sharing with us the scorecard that hopefully people will use to be able to evaluate our candidates for the 2016 election, which is happening in a few months. And of course, we offer our congratulations to the people who organized the debate. I hope that this is just the beginning of a series of debates that will bring out the issues that really matter so that we can look at our candidates based on ethical standards, on the ability of these candidates to be effective as leaders, and also to be empowering of the people that they govern, which is us. So from the Rappler office and from the Rappler page, please continue to follow Rappler as we give you more updates on what's happening on the campaign trail. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.